emphasized program was the stagecraft program last time, which was really nice. I don't think our governing board really had a good grasp of your stagecraft program. And with your partnership here, it was just fantastic for them to see that. And I encouraged our board, if they ever get a chance to come up here for a performance or see it, please do. So probably 2 years ago now, one of my governing board members did come up here with me for a meeting one day with Rose, a tour, and she talks about that often. So again, thank you for what you do here on this campus every day for your students with career and technical education. Superintendent asked me that the board really was wanting to get into just the numbers of things you have in your packet. I want to go through this. The first one on top that I would like to comment on this evening is the enrollment and retention form. So as you see, we are going back 4 years, 3 complete school years. What those numbers in parentheses mean, so let's just go right to the top. She said there might be some questions. 1/1 means 1 student in coding at Central Campus for the fall. That student remained for the spring, so there was 100% retention of that student in that program. So you jump over a column, 1920, under welding, 0-1. That means you had an enrollment for the spring semester only. Nobody was there in the fall. And obviously, with a 0 retention, that student did not remain for the entire semester. So as you can see, as you look down, 18-19, you had 23 students enrolled at those campuses. It is just unbelievably the dedication of your students/community and those parents and families when some of these students go clear to our Southwest campus, which is in Buckeye, the Northwest campus, Surprise, which you're all, I'm sure, familiar with. Northeast is over by the Deer Valley Airport, clear over at 19th Avenue in Deer Valley. Central is by the Glendale Airport. So you have students traveling all over the place. We really, because of the dedication, as WestMec, the folks that work on the constant enrollment issues, we really try to make sure that every Wickenburg student that applies gets the opportunity to attend. We are over-enrolled in many programs, so our sending districts/schools don't always get every student in. But Wickenburg, we really try because it's, there's a big dedication there, as well as with your numbers and stuff, we just think that's the fair thing to do. So as you can see, 18-19, 23, 19-20, 15, 21, 10-12, and this year currently you have 11. Now, I don't have to really drone on about this, but a year ago, COVID, you're going to see later, affected certifications and some other things. It was difficult to recruit for this year. Enrollment numbers, as Ms. Garcia reported at our governing board meeting, your total high school numbers are down. So these numbers are pretty solid, but you are down a little bit across the board. But the students that come, as you can see, stay. And we work very diligently with that. We work with them. We want them to stay. We want them to be successful. So any questions on that sheet? And we can certainly come back to any of this. The next page is the Arizona Department of Education, that's ADE, industry credentials. Again, a little bit of a slide this past year because of COVID and just, making it all happen. But as you can see in 1920, school year 19 and 20, we had a great number of students who did a number of things. 13 students earning at least 1 industry credential, 13 students earning 1 ADE credential. And as you can see there, the students, which campus, and then what credential that they earned. So a nice variety of credentials. We do acknowledge, when I say we, WestMec, those that are required to work, those that employers want to see, and those that are just nice to have. So we have programs, and let's use our computer coding program for a minute. We have some students that will earn 8, 9, 10 different certifications. There's a lot going on in that computer coding world. But we know there's certain ones that most employers are looking for, so we really say, here's the ones you got to get. Sort of like a grade point average. There's weights attached to it. Actually, a red one is worth more than a black one in the weight. I kind of wish we'd have just delineated more numbers or something, but it's a weighted system. Is that fair, Superintendent?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
that's,
glad you explained that because I was looking at this going, wait, I know these points are coming for our CCRI, but yeah.
so just on down that first one at the Northwest Campus, Auto Tech, you earned 4 red points. So you obviously had more students there. They earned their points, and that's just fantastic. And it goes on over to the next page. We go back to the 16-17 school year. Those 11. So we're a little goofed up here, and I'm just going to say it right off the top. But you have every right to ask us. We have every right to continue to say we're working on it and we're trying, and we want to get you that, and we can certainly continue to work with you and try to get this. Admittedly, this afternoon, they kind of said, we need to go back and look at this, don't we? And I said, yes. But I started looking at it this morning to make sure I was prepared, and it didn't add up. And by the time I chased everybody down about 2:30, we didn't have time to get this all fixed. So I know that that's certainly an interest of the Wickenburg community. Where are they today? What are they doing today? But as you can see, I mean, we're improving of following up, getting the information. And that, again, you can see in 2019 even that we had 11 positive placements, 11 that were involved with employment, military, or education or a mission. So good things are happening with those students, which is always an area. They're not just taking it for the fun of it. They're doing something with it, at least the majority of them. I stand for questions.
Superintendent Donovan, if you get that report updated, if there's more data to add, based on experience, I suspect it's refused survey or unresponsive, but maybe not. If you'll send that to me, I will share that with the board when we get it. If that data is just not available this year, it'll be something we ask for you for next year.
Thank you. Happy to do that. And I think I delivered the message this afternoon that those 2 pages should jive, and let's get this fixed. As you can, maybe you can't see, but on the refused 17-18, we weren't even keeping track of that necessarily. That's why it's shaded a little bit. We continue to work at this and track it. I think it would be fascinating information if we tracked all high school graduates, college graduates, and university graduates, kind of see where they all go. But our concern is WestMech, and our concern is to help you know what's happening for this community and what happens with the students that avail themselves to this particular piece of education. If I could just add one more thing, I have presented to the board of the huge growth happening in the northwest quadrant of WestMech, and fully believe that at some point very soon we need to be looking for additional land to build another campus as movement keeps coming this way. I can't tell you tonight that I have a particular year in mind, but we know what's coming. We know what's coming to the Northwest Valley, that whole Surprise, Natterburg, Morristown. I mean, it's all coming. You know, at your bottom end of your district, there's growth coming down there off, your most southern west portion. So we're looking at those things. I have also approached the board about looking for some land about 8 or 10 miles west of that campus at Dysart and Grand. So again, where all that growth is going. And I'm just telling you that tonight because ultimately I think in the future that will continue to serve this community well. So we can deliver that message to this community. As growth continues, WestMech is looking at those future opportunities because Ms. Garcia would tell you that campus at Dysart and Grand is, for all practical purposes, full. And our goal isn't to deny students. Our goal is to assist every student to find their passion, find their career, and become productive and responsible citizens. So we're working at it.
Good, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Donovan?
I just have a comment. Thank you, Mr. Donovan, for your presentation. I've been interested in WestMech for many years. Actually, I was working at Palo Verde when your Southwest campus was built. and I saw that get developed and that from their information center that's right across the street there from it. And I know everyone, all the way up to the CEO out there at Palo Verde, was just excited about having Westmec come in right there, because I looked at some of the jobs that were some of our students were going to there that are actually you know, good fit for fitting right into bringing in apprentices at Palo Verde. So I've been really excited about Westmec for a lot of years already, so thank you very much.
Well, you're most welcome. And what's kind of fun, you heard him talk about Palo Verde, and we have an energy program partnership at that Southwest campus, which is in Verrado and I-10. We have had students placed out there in EMT. We've had students placed in culinary. We've had students placed in our medical assisting, because they have all of those units out there. It's its own little city. So everybody just thinks about that niche program, and they're going to go to work for, quote, the power plant. But there's a whole lot that goes on. We actually have we have a very fancy name for it, but it's a water program. That's another area of great interest and need. Every city will tell you they can't get any employees for their water treatment systems. We've had 2 students hired for the water treatment at Palo Verde. So we've had lots of opportunities there. It's a lot of fun to have that partnership.
Good.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Mr. Donovan. Appreciate
Mr.
your
Chairman,
time.
thank you. It's always a pleasure. Happy to come back, and we'll get you that information, Superintendent. But we're always happy to come back, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you
And
for
the moral of this story is don't fall off the ladder.
Oh.
Please be careful.
And yes, I have my OSHA card, and yes, I fell off the ladder.
Say that you take the safety course.
Thanks, everybody.
Or
Thank you.
dump it on the ladder. Keeps you from falling off.
All right, so next we've got a presentation from Wickenburg High School on the privacy and safety follow-up. Mr. Gorman.
Thank you, Board President Malio, members of the board, Dr. Ramandini, and all else that are here. Last time we met and talked about bathrooms back in October, we were sent back to do a little bit more research and look into some information. We're here tonight to really share some more about where we are with respect to the bathrooms and research and our recommendations in terms of where we're going to move in terms of the bathrooms and facilities at Wittenberg High School. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. I apologize. First, a little bit of just kind of an update on what's been happening. As you know, when this happened, we had had some other things that were happening across our campus, and as a result, we had narrowed down to just using our G-wing or hall bathrooms. We had security that was outside of that bathroom on a regular basis. Initially, right in the kind of on the heels of it happening, there were a couple of minor incidents that happened with bathrooms that we were able to jump on board with. I want to let you know that there hasn't been anything since that point that has been brought to our attention whatsoever with respect to bathrooms, use, misuse, inappropriate things happening in there. And I'll be honest, though we've had security around them, there's a lot more to our building that needs to be taken care of other than watching bathrooms. So we have had to allow him some flexibility in moving away from that to take care of other duties, help us with some student situations around campus, as far as checking on them in classrooms. So there's jobs that he has that we've had to allow him to do and get to, and we still have not had any kind of issues whatsoever in our bathroom. So rest assured that we are, I think, in a good place with respect to that at this moment. There hasn't been anything that was alarming whatsoever. When we went back, we obviously had some proposals that we had brought to you back in October, and as a result of that, working with Jim and the facility team, they had modeled some different options that we might be able to bring to Wickenburg High School that would bring some privacy to our bathrooms. There is that potential that we have in all bathrooms, whether that be male, female, or if we have a student that's using the opposite due to the gender that they're identified by. There is that potential that people are just uncomfortable in general being in bathrooms, and we know that to be the case. And so when we approached this, we approached it from the angle that this is bigger than just the transgender element. This is having to do with everybody going into bathrooms and feeling safe when they're in there, feeling comfortable in using them. And so Jim explored some different possibilities with respect to doors, respect to trims that would go around those doors. And as you may recall, back in October, there were some doors that we could replace our current doors with that were, I believe, in the $1,000 to $1,500 per door range. But then there was trim options that we could also add to those doors that we currently have that would decrease that cost down considerably into the several $100 range. But he also explored some trim options where we were able to put, I want to say it's a flap, if you will, a rubber that would cover the gap in the doors, and was able to model that in several of our spots around campus and create the same privacy that we would get from moving into, again, the more expensive options. So as we look at this and we're looking at kind of where we're recommending that we go in that direction where we're going with a route that's going to provide for that safety and privacy, but at the same time allow us to reduce some of the costs that might be associated with that. So just kind of reviewing back to what our proposed options were, there were 3 phases. And as we move from phase A to phase B to phase C, note that phase A is part of phase B. Phase A and B is then part of phase C. And there's varied colors there that you can see. So I might have to move closer to see them a little bit, but if you look there, again, for phase A, essentially what we're looking at is our G and H buildings, our primary, academic wings, and again, being able to again put the safety sleeves or whatever down those doors so that we're able to create a sense of privacy in those stalls that we currently have. Also in the male bathroom where there are urinals, put the dividers in there so that they're, again, creating more of a sense of privacy on those. And then also add some of the technology elements to those particular buildings as well. The monitors that are inside bathrooms that check air quality that could alert us to, again, something that they're picking up around vaping or noises or just something that quality-wise is alarming, and then tying that into the camera systems in the hallway that would allow for us to be able to kind of go back and see if there was a concern, the individuals possibly that were in the bathrooms at that particular time. Of course, there is no camera in the bathroom. It's all camera outside with the devices that are able to monitor that from within the inside. As we move into phase B, essentially what we're doing is adding other parts of our campus. So when we go into B, it's adding the gym lobby and the commons, so outside sort of in the CTE area and the cafeteria area, and then moving into phase C, it adds the improvements in terms of things like showers and those items that might be in locker rooms. So again, we're seeing this really as a privacy element for all students. Currently, if you look at the picture there on the left, you'll see a shot of our stalls. There are those small, probably maybe 3/8 inch gaps or whatever that are on either side. And there on the right, you can see a privacy trim that would then be added to those doors on the inside. So as the door shut, that trim would cover that gap.
So is this picture that you show here, there's block walls that go all the way up?
That is correct.
Is that in all the bathrooms that way?
All of them in G and H are that way.
Okay.
Yeah, when we get into some of the other locker rooms, then it begins to go to walls that might be, I'm guessing, probably about 7
But are they
feet,
blocked too?
but they're block also.
Okay.
Yes.
So we don't have any kind of like just a standard, like same material as the door, just panels like that? We don't have any like
Not in any of these that we're talking about here, no. Trying to think, Jim, do you know offhand if there is one? I'm trying to think of the audit, not the auditorium, but the gym.
The media center, I think, has just a regular panel between,
Media, okay.
I think.
Board, yeah, media center has it,
I don't, yeah.
sheetrock.
Okay.
That's what they have.
Sheetrock?
Sheetrock.
Oh, okay, but I'm talking about just the standard, kind of like what you see in the, standard airport kind of.
Yeah.
Or-
Sort of like what you're seeing there, there's just those
Where it's
metal.
just the metal,
Yeah.
same height as the door kind of a thing. You don't have
No.
any like that? Okay.
Okay.
Mark, I do have a question before we move on, or
Okay.
maybe for Jim. That trim piece, I am such a fan of that whole thing, but you talked about installing it on from the inside, correct? How does that work? Is it flanged? I mean, is it gonna let the door open freely, or is it gonna smack back at you, or what? I mean, does it fold over?
So all of the doors, I believe all the doors are, as they would then close, it's on the inside of it, and then it would lump up, flush to it from the inside, except for some of the handicap doors, where the door is the exact opposite. But it would simply be, it would always be in that gap. As the door shut, then it just forms sort of a seal
Gotcha,
along the edge
okay.
of it.
And,
Okay.
and we have one installed here on campus. That was the first place we did a prototype, and it is the old-fashioned stalls in the ladies' room. And it works perfectly fine, because
Good.
it's on the inside,
Right.
and
Doors open in, don't
the,
they?
the doors open out, and so the
Yeah.
gap that was on the hinge side is completely covered all the time, and the gap that's on the handle side closes when you close the door and you latch it, and there's no
So
visibility.
it's not attached to the door at all, then? of
No, it's
course.
attached to
No,
the.
attached to the
Just to
frame.
the,
Yeah.
the piece, yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
What's the chance for vandalism with the new? Is it gonna be easy for them to like,
Rip off or.
yeah,
Obviously it is plastic. There is that potential that something could be, but they are fastened on there. They're not loose where you can just kind of grab and pull. They've got a connection to the actual door. So no more likely than them vandalizing, I would say, the stall itself. And the cost on these, I believe, Jim, is right around $40 per door. So compared to, compared to the price that we're talking about with respect to.
You're doing
Oh, I'm
Aaron's
sorry.
presentation.
Sorry. Apologize, Aaron. My point was, I think, with the cost, we don't obviously want anything damaged, vandalized. There is always that potential in there. But with the, lower cost in this, it would be something that could be replaced as well, I think, at a reasonable price anyway. Okay. This is just an example of what the urinals would look like. Again, we talked last time about the privacy between, but also mounting them so that it's not just like if we go over to these bathrooms here, it's just, I believe, the divider.
Right.
These would connect to the floor, so somebody leaning on them, running into them, they would have more longevity. Hopefully, if they'd be more sturdy, they would hold up better, in that situation. Any questions on this one? And this was an example of what we're looking at in terms of our locker rooms. We've talked about a variety of options that we would have for this. We do feel like when it comes time to do this work, that having a door, a physical door on there would be the best option for that to create that privacy. Each bathroom in the locker rooms at least have these two stalls aside from more of a kind of a group setting. So we could create two spaces where there was a privacy area for any students that felt like they wanted to shower in a more private area. We had, again, explored some options like just a shower curtain on there. And, of course, vandalism, that becomes real easy on something like that. And there's the potential for them tearing them down, pulling them open, doing some things. We felt like a physical door on there that was mounted would be our recommendation for that. When it came to safety, we mentioned the cameras in the hallway. These are two examples. The one that we were recommending is the 360 fisheye camera unless something changed. So that would be the one that's on the left. Basically, that one gives us, you know, that view up and down, left and right, whatever you want to say, throughout the vicinity. It is on the ceiling, so it's looking down, but gives you the best view. And we have those currently in our building in a variety of places, and they work great. And then in the bathrooms itself, as you can see, this is the sensor. These would go up into the ceilings. They would connect to those cameras, so that if the sensors went off, it would alert us. Then would also, you know, we would be able to tie that into a time, perhaps, as to who was in those, and be able to at least get into the investigation side of things somewhat.
Mark, is it your, is a question for you, or is it for Jeremy? On the sensor, how does it alert the person that needs to be alerted?
I don't have that answer, so maybe Jeremy knows.
That would be something that's set up in the interface for the sensor. You would set basic thresholds for whatever you want to be notified for, whether that's vaping, vandalism, fighting, things like that. You would set your thresholds, and then you would set who gets notified for those.
Gotcha, okay.
So that would all happen, and then it would connect into our camera system to record that, so we can go back in time and see when it happened. We can actually tie that into the cameras and see maybe who went into the bathroom or
Gotcha,
that type of thing.
okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
Thank you.
What you might have been asking, is that actually the information going to the monitoring station where the cameras are and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the information is recorded in the camera system, so we go back in time and look at it. But it's also going to send out notifications based on, like I said, the thresholds, so that we know to go and look at.
Right, but where's the notifications? Is that at the monitoring station, or is it to the principal's office, or?
No, the notification would be to whoever we want to set it up to.
On their
Oh.
computer
It
or?
doesn't- It's not required to go any one specific place.
Okay.
It can go to the monitoring station, to the
Okay.
security person, to the principal, to the superintendent. I don't think she wants that, but we could if we wanted to.
Is it just like an email alert, or?
It depends on what we want to do. We can do text, email. I believe there's a smartphone, an app for smartphones where you can get a push notification. There's some different options there. I don't know in depth what all we can do, but I know that there's lots of different options available for us.
Because basically, we don't have this now. We're talking about in the future. So we don't really know how it's all going to be set up.
This
And
would be first implementation.
that's what I thought.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me before I turn it over to Aaron? You can always come back to me, of course. But.
Well, thanks, Mark.
Okay. Mr. Malio, members of the board, superintendent, thank you for allowing us to present on this evening. I do first want to start by stating a thank you to both Jeremy and Jim Missel. They were the ones that gathered all of this information that you're going to see in the cost. And I know they put a lot of hard work into it and a lot of research. So I just wanted to thank them for that, give them some credit. And also I want to note that all of these prices are of course subject to change. I know, especially with like the privacy, Mr. Missel's been told, there could be some increases because he got these, 2 weeks ago in preparation for our board meeting. And as you guys know, inflation right now is hurting us. So these are, they were firm at the time, but there could be a little bit of fluctuation as we move forward. And then when we get to security too, we do have to have a vendor come out and give us an official price when they do come out. But these are Jeremy's best estimates at this point in time. So just know that there could be a little fluctuation, but they're as close as we can get them right now. So first we'll look at privacy in that phase A. So phase A included G and H buildings. And so in this here, you're seeing the solution for G and H are those privacy strips. So those are those kind of, I don't know if they're plastic or rubber?
Rubber.
The privacy strips?
Privacy strips are plastic.
Plastic. So those are plastic strips that, bridge those gaps that you can see through the doors. And then also the urinal partitions. So the price for privacy only in Phase A would be $1,680. Yes, sir.
We only need 3 urinal partitions?
That's what I was told by the director of maintenance.
Yeah,
thinking-
there's,
3 bathrooms with,
In the main box, there's 2, and then
two
in our H, it's a little bit smaller, there's one less, so it would just be the 1 and then the 2 in H.
So there's 2, only 1 restroom in building H, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
one restroom that we need those in H, so.
there's
and that
2
one-
urinals in G and 1 urinal in H, and
Right.
so one partition for each.
And then there's stalls in those restrooms still too, so. Thank you, gentlemen. Phase B for privacy, so you're seeing the buildings G and H with those privacy strips and urinal partitions, and then we added in here the gym lobby and commons areas, so that would be an additional 20 stalls for the privacy strips and 1 more urinal partition for a total of $2,880. Phase C, you're seeing the A and the B, and then we added the locker rooms, media center, vocational building, and field house. So that would add an additional 38 privacy stalls, 2 urinal partitions, and then 8 gym shower doors. So then we go up to $10,000 for those additional costs for privacy. We move to security. So this is in with our cameras and our sensors. So Phase A, we're just looking at buildings G and H, and you can see the various cameras and sensors that would be needed between the hallways and the restrooms, and that's going to be $15,500. Phase B, you have G and H, and then we're also adding in the gym lobby, the commons, and then the restrooms in those areas as well. So you can see the additional sensors and camera installations, and that price is $31,000. So when you look at total for our phases, so including the security and the privacy, Phase A would be a total of $17,180, Phase B, $33,880, and Phase C, $41,000. Any questions on those figures at this point?
Okay, so each one of those combines, so Phase A is privacy and security.
Yes, on that last the totals, yeah. So I broke them out based upon, the group, whether it was privacy or security, and then this slide here is the totals of all of it combined.
and so Phase C is A, B, and C combined.
Correct. We didn't have any Phase C for security, because we weren't gonna put cameras in locker rooms. So,
So that's just adding it up then?
Yes.
For each phase? You've
Correct.
included each one?
correct,
Okay,
okay?
separate, okay.
Any other questions on that? It's a lot to look at, a lot of numbers.
Do we have at this point in time in the gym, in the lobby of the gym, are there any cameras there at all yet?
No,
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have questions for Aaron?
okay. So back just to funding real quick. So these are the same possible funding sources that we previously presented back in October. So once the board determines which privacy and security options we're going to move forward with, and we solidify these figures, make sure that they're accurate, then I'll be able to determine which of these funding sources we'll use. We'll probably use a couple of them, if not all, and piece it together. But it's all going to be dependent on what you guys determine that you want to do.
And we can mix and match this. In other words, take all the privacy
Sure.
and Phase A safety. Or,
Correct.
That type of thing.
Yep, and we've got my phone and Surface over there, so if you want me to add any
You have
numbers
your
for you
calculator?
guys, I can do. Yeah, or I can count on my fingers, I guess. Yeah, fingers and toes. So again, yeah, we've got some funding sources. It's just what I use will just be dependent on which options we go with and the phases that we choose. So
Okay.
we appreciate your time. I know that, like I said, there was a lot of team effort in putting these figures and things together. So I hope that we provided you everything that you requested.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just in general, we didn't talk about the web center at all. Are students in the web center every day? No?
No,
Okay. So only when we have like theater shows and they're rehearsing or things like that?
correct.
Okay.
Aaron, did, some of the funding, I know you just say general grants and capital and all that. Did I hear last time you mentioned that we may be able to use some of the ESSER
Correct,
funds?
correct.
What about the school facilities board also?
I don't know if they would go for anything like this. I mean, it's always worth the try. Jim has a great relationship with our liaison and could have a conversation with them about that.
He's out there going.
He's going, no.
But I don't know that this would fall into that. But it's always worth the ask, absolutely.
Safety's in there, so.
Right.
Anybody else? I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this, all the players, everybody that got into this. And so we've got action coming up on that later, so appreciate that presentation. And now we'll move along to our recognitions and proclamations. And does anybody on the board have anything that they wanted to recognize? Sandy has a whole book in front of her.
Yes, I do.
Well, you can start then.
Okay, well, I won't take them all.
Good.
I'll just say a couple.
Okay.
I just wanted to congratulate, not sure how to pronounce his name, I think it's Javin, Coppage, being elected as the youth, ambassador. And from what it said, he is the only student in Arizona that was picked in Arizona, so I think that's is that not true? I see.
It's Javen, and Javen is a young lady.
Oh, wow. Javen, young lady being recognized. Okay, guess because my grandson's Jaden, I just.
That's
whatever.
okay.
But anyway, I thought that was really cool for him to be elected, the only one in Arizona. And the other thing that I wanted to say was congratulations to our football team for almost pulling it off. They did a lot better than they were predicted to do, and so those last 52 seconds killed us, but I just think they did a great job.
I agree.
And I won't say all this.
Okay. Randy, do you have anything?
I didn't have anything, no, thank you.
Susan? Ron? Well, I've got a
for me.
couple things. I have some certificates for 3 board members from ASBA. It's the Associate of Boardmanship. I've got one for Sandra Gill. And I've got one for Randy Hodges. And I've got one for Ron Alexander. So I just want to acknowledge those 3 board members that got 'em.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It only took 12 years.
What's that?
I said it only took 12 years.
That's right, see? And with that, we'll go to Dr. Remendini for her
I have
recognition.
no idea what goes into that.
Your
Well,
time.
Thank you, Mr. Malio, and thank you to the board members who've sought out those recognitions from ASBA. It makes me happy to know that you all are,
Dedicated.
how dedicated you are, how much of a pleasure it is to work with all of you. I do have a long list, because I want to extend a huge thank you to several of our staff members who've gone above and beyond the call of duty in the recent weeks. You've been provided some updates, but our maintenance team, led by Mr. Missel, supported our district efforts in getting documents and files from the school sites to our district office for our recent shredding event. And this is a huge event, and Jim's team was back and forth with trucks and trailers and getting all the documents so we could comply with the records retention, and it made Ms. Green very happy to get all that done. Transportation employee Barbara Sias went above and beyond the call of duty when she had a kindergarten student who was parents late for pickup, and she waited there with them to make them feel safe and secure when the parents were there. And it just brings a tear to my eye how dedicated our transportation employees are. So she's not the only one, but that was something recent. And then I want to recognize Anne Marie Davy, who stepped in at Vulture Peak when Mr. Bushbaum was ill. Mrs. Davy was actually there for a total of 3 weeks and covered student and parent needs and kept the school operating at peak performance. And at the same time, Mr. Adam Bubb covered as administrator at Hacienda and dealt with some tricky situations that were good for him. He didn't get to deal with during his administrative internship, and so he did an excellent job, and that was good for him. I also want to thank students, Olivia McGuire, Maisie Anderson, Sherston Kelly, and Leah Melfi, staff members Adam Bubb, Gwen Tenney, Joyce Henneman, Lorraine Rothler, Anthony Klopek, Justine Adams, and Susan Cornelius. Leaders Carissa Hershkowitz, Anne Marie Davy, and Debbie Hodgkiss, and board member Susan Webster for participating in our Ed Tech design team. This team, consisting of students, teachers, and leaders, worked for 2 full Fridays to explore the future of our classrooms and to prepare and plan for meeting the needs of our students. And it was a wonderful time, so thank you, Mrs. Hodgkiss, for organizing that, and we look forward to an update soon. But that was an amazing event, and those students were wonderful, weren't they? I think
Oh, it was so fun.
So, anyway, that's all I have for this month, but I have lots more always, but
Always.
I'll highlight those.
Always. So just one quick question for you, Dr. Remendini. So they operated at peak performance. Is that because it was at Vulture Peak?
It was at Vulture Peak. Oh, I
I know
didn't
it's a
even
play on
notice
words, I know.
that.
I know.
Oh, I think Miss Davy had a wonderful time being a middle school principal.
That's
I
good.
don't think she ever saw herself in that role, so I think she was glad to give it up. But we have such an amazing group of students and staff there. I don't want to say it was easy, but it's never easy, but she did an amazing job, so we appreciate the help.
That's good. We really do. Appreciate everybody that steps up and helps us move this great team along. All right, so I got everybody, yes. All right, so now we move on to our first principal report, and it's for the Wickenburg High School. And I guess we can start out with Mr. Alexander, if you have anything for Mr. Gorman.
I had a question on your, well, I like your report, first of all, but the question on the suicide prevention meeting you had, I was just curious how many parents took part in that?
Parents, there were 12. Students, there were 19.
19 students, okay. All right, and I don't have anything else for that right now.
You're done with the high school?
I'm
Okay.
good, thank you.
All right. Susan, have you?
I just had a question. I saw we were at 487 students. What does that number relate in terms of where we were at the beginning of the year?
Based on our numbers at the beginning of the year, we were right around 502, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But it is down from that point. We have lost a few students along the way. We have a few that are coming back, and I think that we'll see a little bit of a bump too once we get to second semester, due to timing on things right now.
Okay. Yeah, that was the only question I had.
Okay. Sandy?
I guess I just had nice things to say. I was just reading it, and I was really happy to see that, number one, we're still participating in No Place for Hate, because I think that's really a great program. And the fact that the kids that are in sports medicine got to go out, and I just think anything we can do hands-on is just very helpful for the kids. I mean, reading a book or looking at a thing, but to be able to do it, real life, I just think any of that stuff is really good. So that made me happy. And I'm glad that we did 9/11, because these kids weren't even born. And I just think it's something that needs to be remembered. And so I was glad to see that we did that as well.
Thank you.
Haven't seen it in person, it does make an impact on you. And they did a lot of things. They won the salsa contest, you know, their, your culinary has always, they've always given us the best meals. So,
Yeah, they do.
they've all just done a really good job, so that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
Randy?
As always, very good, detailed report, Mark. I really enjoyed it. I don't think you left any stone unturned, anything going on at the high school. I did have one question, though. You didn't say anything about your frequent visitations of the motorized glider that appears over the campus at several days during the week.
Well, I didn't have a picture to post with it, but I honestly, I've only seen it once. So I may be out there more, but I've only seen it once.
I
But,
see, you know, while I can just about see the overhead of the baseball field from my property, and he's there quite often,
Is he?
yeah.
I've seen him over West Park quite a lot. He
Yeah.
goes that way.
Well, I'm in between them,
Mhm.
so, yeah, and I just wondered if they've ever, talked to the guy or said, hey, we got school going on or anything like that,
Right. We have not, to my knowledge, ever talked to him. I'm not even sure if we know who he is. I mean, somebody probably does, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't
thought
know-
it was
know him
somebody else,
personally or
but
know
there
who
is
he
some
is.
guy advertising for glider training or something now in town here, and I guess, but, I really don't, see why he should be over that campus during school hours, Maybe,
agree.
maybe we'll get somebody to track him down. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
very good report.
Yeah.
I thought he was your neighbor.
No, it wasn't him. 'Cause-
Oh.
no.
Yeah, but I think from an aviation standpoint, there's no restricted airspace or any of that kind of stuff, so, it's,
Well, he's coming right down low across the
well,
baseball
there's
field.
altitude limits.
Yeah. It just kind of, I know back a couple months ago, there was a parent that was concerned because he was going around over the parking lot things and, I guess.
yeah, that's the day I saw him. I think Dr. Remendini might have been there at the same time, and he circled the parking lot once or twice and then flew off. That's the only time I've personally seen him out
Yeah,
there.
okay.
So Mark, to reiterate what Randy was just saying, your report it's phenomenal. I really like that you hit every facet of each corner of the school. And I really, really like, is it Noel, who has your
Noel,
JAG
yeah.
program?
Yeah.
I love the way he detailed it for us on there. That's a lot of information. It was good, great information. And just everything that's going on. I mean, you got it all in there. So good job. I don't have any questions for you. Just great report.
Appreciate it, and I gotta give kudos to all the people that help support it, because it isn't just me, obviously, that puts this together.
Right.
We recognize Noel,
Right.
but there are people from every department and
Oh, yeah,
athletics
sure.
and Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bushbaum. I could go on for, I could probably name most of our staff, because they all have a part of it, so I appreciate what they do.
But you had to ask them, right? See?
And I have one more thing I didn't say earlier, but all of the events going on right now, the month of November, just to recognize that, just for the school being able to put all of that on. The turkeys and tables, the Wrangler Wishes, and they do that every year, and it's amazing, and it's so great for the community, and I think we just appreciate your counseling staff and everyone else that's involved in that. It's great for the community.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'll pass along everything to them too, all of our staff.
I
and,
forgot a
let them know.
question. I wanted to know how many students we have in JAG.
We have 33.
They're good.
33. And
And
we have an opportunity coming up at semester to add a few more. I know they want us to have 40, but they're pretty understanding with us right now because we got started so late. Not having a spring to kind of set the stage for it, get kids on board. Everybody was recruited kind of right at the end of summer. Came in blind, not knowing what JAG was. And so with activities that are going on, kids experiencing the things they're experiencing, we're confident that next year it'll definitely be up there, but we have an opportunity to add some to it, and there's nothing that says we can't put a kid in there second semester that wasn't in there first. We can definitely put them in there and let them start experiencing some of the things that JAG allows them to experience.
Is there kind of a lot of excitement around campus on
The JAG kids love it. I mean, you go into their classroom. I was in there today, and just to hear the type of conversations that you hear going on in there, and you know, they're taking on concerns that they feel that we have on campus, and how can they help us to address those concerns, and so taking ownership on how they can help bring about positive culture on our campus. So I think it's really helping to develop them as leaders. Outside of some of the traditional ways that we've had that with students that maybe haven't stepped into those kind of roles in the past.
Right.
Great, that's awesome.
Well, good. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, so we've got our principal report for Wickenburg Virtual Academy and Miss Rose Garcia. And Randy, do you want to start on that one? If you have anything?
I just like seeing the numbers we have for enrollment for the virtual academy. It's amazing, and I know it'll probably continue to grow throughout the year. But very good report, Rose. I have nothing else. That's very good.
Sandy?
Don't really have any. I guess my concern is I worry about these little kids being in virtual. That bothers me tremendously.
I will say, those K-5 numbers, most of those students were with us last year. We had a lot of people that if it didn't work well and that parent wasn't able to really spend all the hours learning coach and all that duties with their children, they did move back to the traditional school. I think we were all a little concerned, but then when we saw them test at the end of the year last year, and those tests weren't like Galileo where they were done at home. They were at our schools, in the classroom, just like all the other kids, and they performed well, a lot of them. Not all of them, and I'll be honest, we definitely encourage people that if it's not working for you, totally understand. It's a lot of work to be that parent/learning coach. And I will say some of them, in fact, we just talked to one yesterday that is probably going to move their 2 kids, but they said, oh my gosh, we've had all these crises happening in our family, and it really is taking a lot of time to work with our kids. We're going to work hard, and we're going to get these things caught up, but yeah, we're moving back to our traditional campus. So, I think it's nice at least that the parents who feel they can jump in and really work with the teachers, because they do have conversations all the time with the online teacher, and they check progress. So I agree with you, it's not for everyone. It really, the ones who are being really successful with it are really happy that we're still offering that. So, some families still feel most comfortable with the online.
I guess, with all the education that was lost during this beautiful
Yes.
whatever, I think the little ones probably are the hardest, and because they're in such a learning stage, and you worry about if they're not learning it here, when they're testing in 3rd grade, where are they going to be,
Absolutely.
So, anyway, that's just my concern.
Well, and like I said, it's mine too, because I look at their work and look at their grades. We actually pull it every single week to look at where they are, because, if it's not working, we call and we do transfer them over to our schools in the district. And it is nice that we've been able to be fluid,
Right.
to work with. So you're right. It's definitely a cause for alarm, and it honestly is why I actually have that little report on my desk every single week, checking those K-5 students. So 6, 8, 2, and of course high school, but K-5 definitely is a worry if they're not keeping
Right.
up.
But I am glad to hear they have to come in and be in a classroom to be tested, because I really
Yes.
wouldn't believe grades if they're testing at home.
Right, well,
So
and it
glad
was our
to-
concern
I'm glad to know
too,
that.
you know, because you don't know when they're
Exactly.
doing all their benchmark tests, sometimes at home. Not all of them do, but most of them do, and so you think to yourself, is this real? Are they really learning well? So it was nice to see that a lot of them truly did very well. It just depends on the family, honestly.
So,
I just had a question. I saw that you're having the online Google Meets and the lab is open. Are you seeing a lot more kids come into the lab?
We really are, and it's just kind of nice that when we do see students struggling, we call and say, you know, do you want to come in once a week? Do you want to come in? You know, I usually can't offer more than twice a week, but we can offer that, and we have seen families definitely. And some kids never come in, and when they come for final exams, I actually have people working in the lab, and they'll be like, oh wait, who is this? Because they only know by name, you know? And so anyway, but we do have quite a few. And honestly, we even have some of our struggling, you know, K-8, if that parent, grandparent doesn't understand directions or something, or, you know, they just feel like, could they come in and make sure they're submitting this right? So we have tried to actually support and help all of them. And it's worked, you know. There's not huge crowds, it really, so we can space everyone still out and wipe everything down and keep people safe, because we know sometimes they chose online because they didn't want to be around as much, but we have had people come in, yeah.
Well, that's good. I also wanted to say I was really excited to see about the high school helpers because my daughter's now in 6th grade and she still remembers her high school helpers. So,
You
It's a
know
great
what's really fun for me is one student that I enrolled this year, and as I was explaining to her, the high school helper, and she was like, oh yeah, I had one when I was in 2nd grade. And I'm like, wow, she told me the name. It was really fun to you know, look back, and I have a senior in WVA that had a high school helper as kindergartner. So it's been going a long time, so that's why I kind of wanted to highlight, because it really helps both schools. And I will say, because I just had someone yesterday say to me, a senior, do you think I could teach? Do you think I could? I mean, and she was so excited. She was like, oh, it was so exciting. I mean, she's working with 1st graders, but she's like, it's so exciting when they catch on to something, when they get it. And I think I really want to do this, you know? And I had someone a month ago say the same thing. She's working with kindergarten, you know? So I always tell them, you know, it's why I included that. You may never be a teacher, but you are going to know more as a parent someday, a voter, a community member. But, you know, we need excited people to go into teaching. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm always, I mean, because you can just see that sparkle in their eye. They're like, oh, it was so neat. They got it today, you know? So yeah, it is a fun thing. I mean, truly, that's just kind of a side thing that I just do because I just love it, so.
awesome. That's all I had. Thank you, Rose.
well, don't forget, if you can snag one of those kids that are really excited about it, and when they get their certification, you can bring them forward and you can get yourself a stipend.
There you go.
All right, so my turn. So I want to compliment you on your discipline report. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of easy right now.
I also wanted to echo what Susan brought up. I was going to talk about the high school helpers too, because my daughter, who's a senior now, she remembers her high school helper when she was at Hacienda.
Yes, I love it.
And yeah, because when I was looking at this at home over the weekend, I said something about high school helpers. She said, I remember them. I said, really? So it does make an impact. I mean, it's a mentoring thing because here they can tell that it's not a true adult. It's an
Right.
older kid, and they're sitting here helping me. I'm just a little kid. So it means a lot. It really does, you know. I did want to also, there was one other thing that I was looking at. Oh, the internship. I think that program, it's awesome. I couldn't tell you enough about it because that's going to help. It kind of echoes what Greg was talking about earlier. That these kids, or these students, they're learning a craft. When I worked for the Wickenburg Sun, we had interns every year. And they'd come in and they'd do different things with graphic arts and the financial stuff. And they might not get into that field when they, you know, get into the working world, but some of them have, you know. And, you know, the sales industry,
Right.
you know. I mean, I've got an intern and I got to whip on her like crazy.
Did you get in?
I have an intern,
Okay.
you bet.
Well, you know what, because especially when they're staring at their computer screen for so much online learning, I will say it gives me that opportunity also to work with them and their parents and say, so what are you interested in? What do you want to do when you graduate? And sometimes they don't totally know, and we'll even try several places. I mean, I've put people before at a vet office, and they loved animals, but they were like, I could not do this, you know, because it just was hard for them to see sometimes animals hurt or whatever. So it is really, really a nice hands-on. They're getting work experience, lots of those workplace skills, following directions, being punctual, you know, all those type of they call soft skills that actually help you keep a job. Once you are hired somewhere, they learn.
They do. They do. And people, and I was probably as guilty or maybe more guilty than a lot of adults, I didn't give credit to the absorption that happens with kids' brains. Because Ashley was born after I started my business, and she has been to my office almost as much as I have. And I'll get done talking to one of my clients, and she'll come in to me after, you know, everybody's gone, and she said, so uninsured motorist does that? So, I mean, she's picking stuff up, it's like, what? You know, and somebody asked her, says, what do you want to do when you get done with high school? She says, I want to work right here in my dad's office. I said, you do? I was shocked because I really thought she wanted to be, you know, anything but that. But no, it's a great thing. But I really appreciate having all this information that you put in here, the internship, that high school helper thing. It's so tremendous. And I was really kind of jazzed to see that you're utilizing your online students that live out of Wickenburg, and they're doing it at the locations that they live near, Aguila and Congress.
You know, it's kind of fun, and Julie and I did try festival too, but it fell through with the student, but she was willing to do it out there too, but it's just nice. And Aguila, the student works at the library, then walks really close by to the school.
Yeah.
It is, and Congress, same thing. So I know that was actually the extension that we hadn't been doing before, but with online and students working at home in their community, it just sort of was a natural. So I approached them and they said, absolutely, we'll try it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's great. But I have nothing else but just praise for your report. I really liked it. It's very in-depth, gave us the information we need, and thank you so very much.
And it was exciting to hear that you spoke to the Westmec board and they loved it. So.
Yes. It was fun. And you know what? They really were impressed. You know, we took pictures of the outside of the web center, but see, our stagecraft with Sue Baker, it's just so phenomenal because with our partnership, they go in, they get lessons on the soundboard, on the lights, and so we have all these cool pictures of all this professional stuff, and they were just amazed. And you know, like he said, he said, well, we honestly haven't had a stagecraft program presented, and this was really amazing. So kind of encouraged them to, he said, come up, check out our web center, because it's amazing, and there is no bad seat. So anyway,
Right.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Rose. Appreciate it. All right, so next is our public hearing. And we're gonna open a public meeting at 6:47. And we have, well, she's right there. Hello there, Valerie. So we've got Valerie Shumway, and she's going to go over the performance plan for teachers. Ready.
Got it. Good evening, Mr. Malio, school board members, and Dr. Remendini. Included in your board docs is the 301 performance pay plan. The salary committee, which is made up of 2 teachers from every school, met on October 4th of this year to review last year's performance plan and recommend any changes. There was some really good discussion and a lot of great ideas in how to improve the plan. But to allow for a more in-depth plan, the committee decided to meet in January to review and maybe revise the plan for 22-23. So the plan that you have in front of you is basically the same as last year. It is the same as last year with some updates in the data. And so they are looking at next year doing maybe some possible changes, but they wanted some more time to review and look at that. So they kept it as it is. We did have an anonymous online survey to our staff. The certified staff voted on the plan and the first payout date. 100% of the staff participated. 99% voted in favor of the proposed plan that you have before you. Performance plans for the TOSAs, instructional coach, and counselors were updated with their principal or supervisor in the human resources and then submitted. The performance payout this year is $3,500 per staff member. All the plans have a 65-35 split payout. The first pay of 65% will be in December, and the second payout, 35%, will be in June. This plan is consistent with the requirements from the state. So I don't know if you have any questions. That was a quick overview. I know you have the full plan in front of you.
Anybody have questions for Mrs. Shumway?
It's not really a question. I guess, and my concern was that I feel to get 100%, you should meet all goals, not 2 out of 3.
Uh-huh.
So that's just out there.
I'll give you an example on that, Sandy. So
Okay.
one of the goals is attendance. And, you know, we are still recovering from COVID a little, and so there is a concern there to use attendance as part of the plan. But as you'll notice in the plan data, Hacienda fell short.
I saw.
So that is not something they can totally control. So it does give those teachers still an opportunity to get 100% of the funding without they can meet 2 of the criteria instead of 3 when they can't control all of them.
Well, and maybe I read this wrong, but it would be the district average, not the school attendance, no? It's
It is a school.
Okay,
Each
then I read
school
it
is
wrong.
listed separately.
okay.
Yeah.
And, I mean, well, the schools have, how much control do they have over it? Really, I mean, even on a good year.
Well, you know, the goal, I think, is that the teachers create an atmosphere where kids want to be there, but you can't control illness and those types of things. But that's the goal, is that you can create an atmosphere that will want
Okay.
children to attend.
Okay.
I think perhaps my thought is there go the lights.
We go to lunch, you say?
There go the lights.
Oh, lights.
Is if you're paying a teacher for performance, I agree, attendance, they have no control over. So I think when they revisit this performance pay criteria, they maybe need to look at things that have more to do with the teaching.
Your thought process is exactly where they are, Sandy.
Oh, great.
They want to look at things that that directly reflect their performance. And so they had some really good thoughts and discussions. We'll see where it comes out, but that's exactly where they are.
Great. I like that.
In addition to that, what Sandy was just talking, maybe some of that criteria is just looked at with a different weight to what goes into the whole calculation.
Ah, yeah.
Good idea.
I have one more question. Do we know how many teachers are getting this?
Not right now.
Okay. All right, I was just curious.
No.
Okay.
I will tell you that the salary committee does want people to be performing. They want highly performing teachers. But they do try to consider that people are all learning and growing. And so don't try to look for things to eliminate, but to help people improve.
Yeah. Ron, do you have any other questions? No? Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie.
So I will close the public hearing at 6:53. And our next, yeah, I got it on order, okay. So our next is the action item on that topic we just were hearing about. If we can get a motion on that?
I'll make a motion that the governing board of the Wickenburg Unified School District Number 9, having held a public hearing on November 16th, 2021, hereby adopt the 2021-2022 301 Performance Plan and authorize the 301 Performance Plan payout as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next item of business is call to the public. There is not anybody here in the public, so we will skim past that.
Mr. Turner?
I mean, Scott's part of the team. Scott, do you want to be in the public tonight or not? Okay. Okay, he's good, see? So we put him on the spot, he got all nervous. All right, so consent agenda. Any board member need anything pulled from the consent agenda before taking action on that? Hearing none, I'm ready for the motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items for November 16th, 2021 as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Section 7, action items. Request for approval of financial reports presented by our Executive Director of Business Services, Ms. Erin Johnson.
Good evening again. As you can see, got our old report back, so you have your little speedometers on the front to kind of get a gauge, and you can see that we're trending well under what our projected year-to-date expenditures are at this point. So that's always a good thing. And then next page is our maintenance and operations. We do look like we're quite a bit, 6% under where we were last year, but also need to look at our annual budget has increased over last year. So if you look at the current year-to-date and prior year-to-date numbers, they're fairly close. So we're trending well there. Let's see here. And then same thing in capital on 610. We're doing well there. I do expect to start seeing a little bit more there with some capital expenditures potentially coming up. So we may see a little bit of an increase there, but again, trending well on all of our figures at this point. As we discussed in the last meeting, we're going to start seeing a little bit of an increase in our M&O expenditures due to salary increases with minimum wage and things coming in January. So, but our budget balances are positive. We are in compliance, and there are no surprises to the best of my knowledge.
All right, questions?
I was just gonna ask, what do you attribute the below, that part below the projected?
Well, I think this is, when these projected numbers come out, they're looking at a history of us going back. And so we've cut some staff down, we've had some resignations, so I would say those are a couple of our biggest, savings. We've had subs instead of teachers, which, yes, saves us money, isn't always great in the classroom. And then also, this is looking back to prior to us having 4-day week, prior to being closed during COVID, things like that. And so,
So the projected aren't your projections?
No.
then? Okay,
it's generated in the system,
okay.
in the program, so.
Anybody else for Aaron? Ready for a motion then?
Make a motion to approve the financial reports as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. All right, item B on, request for approval of the award of contractor for IFB, Wickenburg High School Fire Alarm Replacement Project. Does anybody need any clarifications or anything or on that? Everybody get it? Everybody's kind of nodding,
Everyone's nodding.
right? All right, how
Pretty,
about,
pretty explanatory there
Yeah.
on the board sheet, but
yeah,
if there's any questions.
anybody questions? How about motions?
I'll make the motion to approve the award, the IFB 22-01-23 for the Wickenburg High School Fire Alarm Replacement Project to Benson Security Systems, Inc., which includes all bonds, required taxes, and the add alternate bypass cost contingent upon the SFB funding approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries too. Thank you. And we have our, item C is the first reading of policy advisories, instructional resources and materials, and textbook supplementary materials and adoption. Anybody need to ask any questions or any feedback on that? No? This is an easy one. All right, so item D is an action item, and this is request for approval of the Wickenburg High School restroom modifications. I personally think that I have to get on the right page here. So, all right, so. She's gonna put it back
You
up?
guys have that in front of you as well in your
Yeah, presentation, but we can look at it this way too if you want. So that's the totals of all, but did you want to look at any individual slides?
No. I mean, unless somebody else does.
No.
I would, I'll kick it off by starting a little conversation about the, oh my goodness. There it is.
Too many tabs.
Too many, way too many. Okay, so on the proposals page that we have, I think I would really like to, personally, this is just me, I'm all for, let's get the privacy sections all ironed out, because that, I think, is gonna feed a little bit into the safety component of it. But with the safety component, I would like to try some of the sensors, just a couple of the sensors, and see if they react. Maybe I should have asked this first, Jeremy. Did you see those in action? Those sensors in action? Was there any way to, for your rep to demonstrate or show you something of how they're gonna, what they're gonna do or what they're capable of doing?
I didn't get a personal demonstration, but there were several YouTube videos where they showed the demonstration of how it works, what kind of what it will track
Right.
and say, and then how it would work with notifications.
Because what I was gonna say is, at $2,000 a pop, I'd like to say we try a couple of them in our busier areas. I know the whole campus is busy, but I mean, let's face it, the most common, like the G building for obvious reasons. And even if you, I'd like to just see if it does what we wanted, what we needed to do, and also wanted to do, before we buy all of them for all the bathrooms. That's just me, of course. So I'm just kicking us off for discussion, and you guys can chime in where you want to or need to.
Well, yeah, as far as installation goes, who's gonna do the installation of all of this? Is it our maintenance department?
Well, if we're talking about technology,
Yes.
that would probably be us. If it's a small, like if we're doing one or two, then that's something that I could probably work out with us. We don't have a lot of the equipment that it takes to run networking long distances through the ceilings and run and holes through walls and stuff like that. But doing a couple installations, we could probably work something out from there. If not, then we'll look at getting a company in to help us out with that. But when I say each install would be $2,000-$2,500, I think 25 was what I put down. That was including labor and installation, licensing for the to keep records in our camera system, all of that. So
Oh, I thought that was just buying the piece. Okay.
no, it's installed.
Okay.
So it would be if we're doing the install in-house on just a couple of them, that would save us some money too. But it's not something that I could say we could do all of them in a reasonable amount of time.
Right, right.
Are they wired at network or?
Yep.
Okay, so they're wired.
They're where.
Who?
What do you guys think on those?
I'm all about phase C and just do it all.
Yeah.
But,
I was thinking,
but you know, that's the mom half of my brain saying, you know, if you guys believe in this and this is your proposal and you feel like this is what's gonna get the job done, then I'm all for doing the full thing. If you feel like, and I guess I would look to you guys for advice too, if you feel like we should do one phase and then see, but if you're gonna have to pay for labor and whatnot, my thoughts were doing it all, then you're gonna save some money because they're doing it all at one time versus having them come out and then come out again and then come out again. That was just my thinking.
Especially with the technology stuff, I can't say anything for Jim, but with the technology stuff, bringing a company up from the valley to do things, every time we do that, it adds cost because you're adding in the driving and the staying, and so you're right. If we can do some of these things all at one time, it can save money. Now, what we could look at doing is possibly running all of the cabling that we want to run, getting all of that set, and then look at kind of phasing in the actual cameras or sensors, because that would also take less time, and some of that install could be done internally by us rather than having the company do everything. So there's
Yeah.
options.
Is there, is that number that we're looking at there, is that like a deal? I mean, I don't mean it like that. I meant like,
Black
if you buy
Friday.
this many, we're gonna give it to you for this much money.
No, when I called and talked to the company about coming out to give us a quote, they're stacked up so long.
Okay.
We're still looking at a week or two to get them out here. But what they told me was you can count on about $2,500 per install. That's just a flat rate. It's going to be different. It's definitely going to be different from that. depending on how close they are to the switch rooms or the server room, and depending on which camera model we have in which place. And so that's a very, like Aaron said, it's an estimate based on what they told me, but it is not a firm number of this is what it's going to cost. So there will be some benefits of doing, like you said, doing everything at once instead of piecemealing, because then you have some of the cabling costs that can be offset by doing it all at once. Things like that. But in terms of a deal of you get this many cameras and we're going to give you 25% off, or we're going
Right.
to give you, it's nothing like that. no.
Okay. No, because what I was trying to, when Susan said this, it like hit home, because I wanted Phase C quoted when we first had the conversation about the presentation you guys put on at the last meeting, or the meeting before that. So I really wanted to see how that all would shape up. I'd like to see everything locked down as well. You know, I mean, that's my deal, but I'm looking at that number and it's like, my gosh. It's a big chunk, you know, for the incident we had, which sparked most of this happening. So it's a matter of reactionary. It's tough. I don't know. I can't see that much money, that amount of money going out at one time, just because do we really need it right there? You know, do we really need it up here, you know? At this time, you know what I'm saying? I'm all for the privacy thing, the technology aspect of it. I'm really into the technology part of it, because if that sensor does what you were told and what you actually observed on YouTube, I'm very interested in that. I'm sure the administrators of the high school would be very in tune to that. That would sure help, you know, or could help. So, I don't know. I'm torn.
I got a question, talking to the technology here. Is there, or have you looked at wireless technology for this?
You can do wireless, but you end up running power to it anyway. So if you're going to run power to something, you might as well just run networking as well.
Are they
Normally the networking provides the power, so you're not running two cables to it. So there are probably wireless options, but generally for things like this, like cameras, unless you have something like, if we wanted to put a camera way out on the end of the parking lot, you know, where there's nothing, wireless might make sense there, but if you're in a building and you're going to be running power to it, you might as well just run networking.
I guess my comment is a couple of things. If we piecemeal it, as we know, prices keep going up and up and up. You know, so that's a consideration. You know, maybe we're going to split up the cost, but down the road it could cost us more. I do think it would be nice if there was an in-person demonstration that you could go to through this company that shows us exactly how they work. My other thing is I really think the cameras and the sensors are more important than a strip. And I'll tell you why. Because this might have caused all this, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on in those bathrooms. Yeah, and you know, like you said, the vaping and, you know, somebody fighting or whatever. So I think more than, I mean, the privacy strips aren't expensive. I'm just joking. But really, I'm more concerned with the safety of what's going on than I am a strip. Because like you said, you know, this is just something that kind of came up, blew up, and, you know, that's my concern.
Is the total facing cost an issue right now?
No, I think we could I think that we could, if that's the way the board wants to go, I feel that we could probably find funding sources for it.
And I think that's good.
And me as a board member, I feel like the concern of the community and everything that did happen warrants us implementing the best solution we can come up with. And so I would be in favor of phase C for that reason alone.
A question. And I just noticed this as I was kind of looking at, putting things here and there. There's not any sensors in the gym locker rooms. Is there a reason for that?
I think that was just a decision that was made.
I
I'm
think
not
that
sure
they're
that there was
typically
a-
supervised, correct, Mr. Gorman, by the teacher or a coach?
They are, yeah, in each, on each of those, there should be a coach that's out there that's monitoring what's going on. I don't know, with the size of them, the sheer size of those, how many sensors we would need to have just to be able to monitor that large of a space too.
Where there is always an adult when there's students.
Yeah.
So
That
anytime
was-
there's somebody in the locker room, there's an adult there.
Yeah, right. And I want to reiterate,
Cameras, because we wouldn't be putting cameras into them, so
Right,
it's kind of,
right.
it's kind of a combination.
I was thinking more of the halo sensors for, so they can't get in there otherwise, students. In other words, they can't be in there.
can the students get into the locker room without an adult opening, monitoring?
They're locked in class. Could they get in there? I'm sure.
I mean, so they're locked?
Opportunity that somebody could sneak into the locker room, but.
Okay, but so the locker rooms are locked then?
Correct,
So they can't get in there without
right.
some kind of something,
When they come back out, coach locks the door.
Okay, all right. That answers that question then, because I was thinking, wait a minute.
I think I'm good with phase C. I think we should move on it and get it done, get it approved.
I mean, if we can afford the cost without any other, grants or donations or whatever, then I would say just go for the whole thing. But if you want, if you want to try to look at seeing if these sensors work or not, I would go for all the privacy and then maybe phase A of the safety and security, which would knock out maybe what, 15, 25, 5 at that cost, so, you'd another 15,000 you'd save, or 16,000.
I also think that, if you're gonna do it in phases, you're gonna be applying for grants, or you're gonna be applying for this, or you're three different times, rather than just applying once, or am I wrong?
It's gonna depend on what sources we use. So, we do have some existing, donation accounts that we could tap into. We also have our capital fund that we can tap into. And then, of course, we have the ESSER. Looking at ESSER, using ESSER funds, that would be a discussion that Debbie Hotchkiss, Barbara, myself would have, along with our committee that we put into place, just to make sure it qualifies. So I do, after some preliminary conversations with these two ladies, we do feel that some of this, not all, could potentially be funded through ESSER, but not all of it. Now, there may be some other grants out there, safety grants and things that we could apply for, but I have not done any research on those. I don't know if Valerie or Debbie have at all either, or know of any, or Dr. Remendini, but, so I don't see us having to apply 3 different times necessarily, but I guess there is that chance. If for some reason ESSER, for example, doesn't come through or something. But-
Well, and I think we've moved, in the past, you've moved funds around depending on how we could use them. So I think you would find a way, Erin.
It's called creative financing.
But you already said there's no surprises.
There aren't right now. To the best of my knowledge.
All right, so what I'm hearing is the majority would like to see phase C and spend all the money. Is that a motion we're gonna get on the table?
I will make a motion to approve Phase C to
What were you
address
gonna-
safety and security of restrooms at Wickenburg High School as submitted.
I just want to ask one question before you second that. So as you well know, these are estimated figures.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
is there some kind of threshold that, like, what if we jump 10,000, 20,000, 5,000? Where are you guys comfortable? I mean, are you just saying go for C regardless of the cost, or are you? Just want to make sure, because that 41, it could go down.
Yeah.
You know, if you know, if Jeremy, you know, just overestimated, but it could go up based upon, you know, I mean, Mr. Missel's been told, you know, prices are rising by 20% in a week, so
We live with that.
sorry to throw that wrench, but I just want to make sure that
No,
we-
yeah.
we don't go bonkers here and you guys come back and go,
I think
wait a
we're,
second.
I came into the meeting kind of believing that was closer true to form, that number, and now I'm hearing differently, so.
Well, I think it's as close as we know,
It's-
as we can get at this point.
We haven't gotten a quote for the technology, and so that will take that. I think the price for the privacy is quotes and measurements and numbers and down to the exact number of bolts that need to be put in there. But the technology is a little more up in the air with what can be done and the cost it can be done.
So if we were to say like 20%, we'd be like $8,000, give or take, in addition to that. If we were to say that if it was more than that, come back to the board and we'll talk further. Is that something that you guys would be okay with?
I'm fine with that. I don't want to keep prolonging this any
Right.
longer. Like, I don't want to have to wait till the December meeting to move on it. So
Right.
that's why I would like, you know, the permission of the board to give us a little wiggle room and grace here if this does come back more.
I'm
Since
on
you're-
board.
Since
I'm
you're
on board with
approving a
that,
figure right now, you
Yeah.
know, like.
So if we modify the motion just to say we approve Phase C within 20% plus or minus, you know, plus above to address the safety and security of the restrooms at Wickenburg High School, then we can move forward. Is everybody good with that?
You good with that amendment, Randy? Seeing as how you
I'm
made the
agreed
motion?
with that amendment to the motion.
So you need to redo them.
Let me redo it.
You need to
I think
redo
Lynn
it.
has it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Phase C with the amended discussion of the 20%, chance of a 20% increase to the estimation to address the safety and security of the restrooms at the Wickenburg High School as submitted.
Sandy seconded.
I said second.
Oh, he did.
You did.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay.
Who did?
Ron did, I think.
Sandy did.
No, Sandy did.
Oh, I did.
Sandy seconded. All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Well, but I
Opposed?
didn't, I thought they said he said it.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
That's one thing that's still intact.
Are you awake?
Okay.
All right. So we're moving along to, where in the world?
Future agenda.
Thank you. I was hoping that's where we were.
Yep.
Items for future agendas.
Yes, I would like to just mention, I know Dr. Armendini talked about it earlier, but we had the technical education,
Ed Tech Design Team.
ed tech design team, there you go. That I would like to see something on future agenda to talk about sort of where we came out of that discussion with you guys, so you can understand sort of what I got to be a part of.
We heard you were a gem,
It was fun.
She was.
right up your alley.
Mhm.
All right, I like that idea. I'd like to hear what went on there. Anything else? All right. We've got our announcements and our calendar with all the colors and seasonal items on there. Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate that very much. And let's see, page 3 of the agenda is,
Aaron,
oh my goodness. Yes.
I just wanted to say one thing to answer your question, Susan, about the number of teachers that would be
Oh.
receiving 3-1.
Yeah.
This is an estimate because I don't know if some of these folks were in our resignations or not, but just in looking in your packet at the votes, there were 72 responses. And we had 100% participation in our responses, so 72 at most for the first payout.
So you think they're all gonna,
It's 72 at most for the first payout.
at
so-
most? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
You're on.
so item 9,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Too late, meeting's closed.
No. I wish,
Thank you, guys. Thank you.